Hello, we're live. I'm Jamie J. This is Live with Bottleneck, where we help you stop the bottleneck in your business. I'm talking with a good friend of mine. I can say good friend. I think he's a pretty good friend of mine now. We've known each other for quite some time, and just a fantastic human being, and Boris Kievsky, and we're going to be chatting. He's the chief storyteller and nerd for good at dotOrgStrategy. Let me get through this quick introduction, and I'll tell you why he's going to help you stop the bottleneck in your business, your nonprofit, that is. So bear with me 1 second, and we'll get going. Well, hello there. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business. But we're not going to be talking about me today. We're actually talking to Boris Kievsky, and he's going to help you stop the bottleneck in your nonprofits or your business, I guess. But he specializes in nonprofits. We're going to be helping nonprofits increase their impact and remove their bottlenecks. I love that, with digital resources and storytelling. And Boris Kievsky is chief storyteller and for good of dotOrgStrategy. Why, oh why, is Boris able to help stop the bottleneck in your nonprofit? Let me tell you. As a storyteller, digital strategist, and entrepreneur, Boris created dotOrgStrategy to help nonprofits effectively use story and technology to increase their impact without overstretching their resources. Boris began programming computers and working with online networks at age 10. He's absolutely brilliant, I'm telling you. Falling in love with the power of tech to both communicate and create communities. In college, he switched focus to theater and film, which taught him the power of storytelling to change lives and taught his parents a lot of patience. In 2010, Boris retired from playing the occasional Russian bad guy on TV, and he plays a freaking really good bad guy. Since then, Boris has been combining his love of tech and story, applying them towards helping nonprofits create more heroes through digital media, marketing, and fundraising. So let's hop to it. And without any further ado, I'd love to introduce you to my good friend, Boris. How are you, sir?
Hey, Jamie, I am good, and I am really happy to be here with you today, and happy to hear you introduce me as a good friend, because that's pretty much how I think of you. So it'd be kind of awkward if you didn't.
Hey, I tell you what, it's been an honor and privilege getting to know you. You're fascinating and extremely intelligent, sometimes too intelligent for your own good, I believe, if I'm going to be completely honest. But it's incredible how well you can break down a story and kind of dive into the different aspects of it to make a story super powerful. And I say that right now because I want to get there. But first of all, I'm wondering if you can kind of, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and some of your background, and then maybe what you're up to now. I want to dive into the storytelling.
Sure.
And what do you do to help nonprofits, actually?
So usually when someone introduces me and they're just using my name and talking my bio, I like to come on and say, hello, I am Boris. I am from Soviet Union. I am here to hack your iPhone. No, I am, I was born in the Soviet Union.
That was great.
And with a name like Boris, you can imagine I had a fun time growing up in Brooklyn in the 1980s. It definitely taught me some resilience. And it also led me into a life of solitude behind a computer terminal. I started programming, like you said, when I was 10. I had a couple of really good friends. One introduced me to computers and the other one introduced me to comic books. And to this day, those are the two most formative introductions I've had in my life. I loved both worlds. One, because the stories that I got in comic books were so fantastic and inspiring and transportive, right? They would take me out of my present reality into a world that was much more phenomenal, even though it was still so full of problems and made some of my problems look a little simpler. The other was, of course, technology, and through computers, first getting to create my own little worlds, programming my own games, and then going on to sysopping BBSs. If any of you guys are old enough to remember that, these dial-up bulletin board systems where I could actually create communities of people who didn't necessarily look like me. They didn't even know my name because we used handles at the time. What basically, we now put after an @ symbol on Instagram or Twitter. We had those back in the 80s. And nobody knew who I am, what I looked like, where my family was from. They just knew, hey, I was this guy who was interested in this, and we could talk about all kinds of things. And I loved that. So
cool.
That's really what led me into the world that I'm in now. After making a couple of different career changes, I realized that nonprofits have a really hard time, harder than most companies. And really the stuff that I teach can be applied to anybody, but harder than most businesses, let's say, in breaking through the noise. They don't necessarily want to spend the resources on online ad spend to break through and connect with people. So my goal is to help them do just that, and specifically using stories to really connect with the right person online, the right audience that will respond to their messaging and want to take action and what I call become a hero for their cause.
I think it's fantastic. One of the biggest challenges I see with a lot of people is they said what you said after you focus on nonprofits. It can pretty much go to anybody. And that's why I really appreciate what you're doing, is you're really focusing on the nonprofits. I feel that sector needs a lot of help and support because they're, for the most part, they've started these nonprofits for some good reason, right? And I think it's really cool that you're using your experience, knowledge, and know-how to kind of help them along their journey and help them become heroes, superheroes, in fact. And I think what I'd like to do before I actually go into that is ask you, you kind of just touched on this, but you and I had talked and you had told me about your acting and all that kind of stuff. And my wife and I, Sarah, we went Googling and saw it and found the episodes, and we were watching you on, what is it called? The
Blacklist. Yeah.
The Blacklist. And we're like, hey, I think he's in there. He is. He's a bad Russian guy. And it was fun. We had a blast with it. And we were able to kind of, learn a little bit more about your past. And I think, I don't want to glaze over that. I know you're not that kind of person that likes to toot your own horn or anything, but I think it's relevant in that all the studying, all the schooling, everything that you learned about acting and storytelling is carrying on forward into what you're doing to help create these stories for your clients in the nonprofit. And I'm wondering if maybe you can tie those two seasons of your life together, bridge the gap.
Seasons is a generous term for it. It's decades. Yeah. So it's interesting because, when I tell my story, I tell it as a story, and I combine all the elements, all the aspects of my life. And really, that's what I had to do when I got tired of playing Russian bad guys on TV. I had to figure out, okay, what skills do I have that I could bring to bear for public good? I mean, I've always wanted to make an impact on the world, a positive one. But I'm too much of a capitalist, and we could talk about this, to be a nonprofit myself. However, in a capitalist society, I think nonprofits are absolutely critical. They are necessary for our survival. But we'll come back to that later on. So as I'd been studying storytelling, first as an actor, and then I took every theater class that was offered in my undergrad course when I graduated with a BFA in theater. And then I went off to London and I got a postgrad in theater. But even then, I was taking every class and I was trying to figure out what are the elements, whether from a writing perspective or a directing perspective or an acting perspective, that really work to tell a compelling story that grabs people, that takes them on a journey, and really leaves them changed by the end. And I remember having these powerful experiences when I was doing theater. And even before then, when I went to see 6 Degrees of Separation, when it was playing on Broadway, a fantastic cast, John Guire became one of my favorite playwrights for forever after that. There's a movie version out with Will Smith, if you guys want to go see that. And it actually changed me. I came out a different person. There are times when I've gone to the theater and I walked out and the world looked different. And I love that experience. I love seeing music on the streets of New York where there wasn't necessarily any playing because I saw such a great show. And so I spent all that time really analyzing, and sometimes consciously, sometimes not consciously, just absorbing all of these different elements and codifying them. And then, of course, when I went to Hollywood, well, Hollywood's a machine. It is an amazing machine. It is one of the most powerful money-making machines on the planet. And it knows what it's doing. It takes certain elements, it combines them to get them together, repackages them in a few different ways, right? There's some people say there's only 3 storylines in the world. They repackage them in different ways, and all of a sudden you've got another element that'll make $1 billion out in the world. Well, can we use that for good in every occasion, right? Can we take those ABCs of storytelling, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, if you will, beginning, middle, end, and all the different elements in between, and create something that's going to move people to take action for good? That's my goal. That's my mission.
I think that's fantastic. And by the way, I'm writing a book right now that I think you know about.
I do.
And I reference part of what I learned from you through Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 in that book. And I gave you credit for it, by the way.
Thank you.
But it really resonated with me when you talk about that, when you break it down, because most people go and they watch a movie or a show or something, and they don't understand the nuances on how that story is brought to you, or brought to them. And going through your course, which I've done, and learning about that, it really gave me a new perspective on storytelling. So much so that I introduced it in my book because it had a way of simplifying the process and alleviating overwhelm. And that's what you do, I think, because I kind of didn't get at first when we first talked kind of what it was that you were doing. And then as you started coming out with the story and how it works and how it's all put together, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a rinse and repeat type of thing. You can literally introduce this to anybody as long as you have the mechanics. And that's what you give people. That's what you give these nonprofits. So what are the biggest challenges you think, that being said, for nonprofits getting their story out?
So there's a few. One, of course, is knowledge, and I really appreciate your kind words. It really is about streamlining the concept of storytelling, rather than, there's so much, as you said, overwhelm out there. Even when it comes to storytelling, it's become a buzzword, and every nonprofit gets bombarded with, oh, tell your story like this, tell your story this way. Here's 5 things every story must have. And they lose track of what the core elements are that are necessary in any story in order to really engage, to release certain chemicals in the body that elicit trust and empathy specifically, that'll get people to resonate with it and take those steps. So that's the first thing. The first thing is the framework, and it's really simple and can become infinitely complex from there, but the framework of how to tell a story simply. And then the second thing is, there really are bottlenecks. Look, you don't have to live inside a nonprofit to know they are almost all perpetually strapped for resources. And it's not because they're not being effective or efficient. It's the opposite. It's because they're always trying to be as effective and efficient as possible with every dime to get as much into the community as they can, as much impact and change in the community as they can. And oftentimes they are under-resourced for everything that they want to do. So I talk to a lot of organizations where, there might be a comms team of one, sometimes less, sometimes it's one person wearing multiple hats. And then there are comms teams, like I was privileged to be in a nonprofit that had a team of 4 or 5 at times, but still it was so thinly stretched that we didn't always have the resources and tools available. So part of what I do is I teach nonprofits and I help them figure out, how do you capture your stories so that the comms team doesn't have to be generating them and pulling teeth all the time to try to put them together and release them on any sort of a schedule to keep your audience engaged. So those are the, well, there it is up on the screen. Yeah. What is the tool or process or combination really that they can use? And I know you're big on both of those things, to eliminate those bottlenecks on the comms team so that they could get their message out more.
See, and I think it's having someone like you to guide someone along. We all need our director, right? We all need, like, the professional sports. They all need a coach. We always need someone to guide you, or to be able to read a play or whatever's going on, to put you in the best position possible. And I have to say, the integrity you maintain is through the roof. It's absolutely incredible. You're so detail oriented, and you're so caring, and I just wonder, how do you maintain such a high level of, gosh, I just want to say character, professionalism? Like, what is it that you do that brings that out of you, that other people see like that?
I appreciate you saying that. I don't think about that on a regular basis. I guess at its core,
more amazing.
At its core, look, I tell people, just like nonprofits, I'm on a mission, right? I want to make an impact on the world. I want to leave it better than I found it. I want to leave it better for my kids, my stepkids. I want to leave the world a better place. And that's not something that I want to do in legacy, which I know a lot of people talk about. I'll make a lot of money and then I'll donate and I'll sponsor and I'll do philanthropy or something. I prefer to do good, to do well by doing good. And so that's always my guiding credo.
I love that. That's fantastic. How do you choose the nonprofits you work with?
I'd love to say that I'm so overwhelmed with requests that I can be totally choosy. I don't generally turn clients away. Of course, they need to be in a position where they can benefit from the things that I'm teaching them. If I see that they can't, for whatever reason, then I don't want to just take their money and then it's going to, the stuff that we create, the frameworks and strategies that we create will just wind up sitting and going nowhere. So I'll point them in different directions. The only thing I will say is I do have my personal ethics and morals. And if people want to see, I created a blog post called Lessons from December 37th, 2020, where there are certain things that I see in the world that I can't support. And there are nonprofits, and I don't want to say that, one nonprofit is more deserving than another, because that's not for me to decide at all. But I will say there are ones that I'm more likely to support and ones that I don't think are in line with my personal credo and my personal ethics. So I will kindly point them in another direction as well.
Well, see, that's fantastic. But there's a certain way that you can kind of help nonprofits out, either if they don't work with you without pointing them in another direction, maybe to kind of get them prepared, versus, there's a way to, for the lack of a better term, qualify somebody to make sure that you're not disrupting too much of what they have going on, or maybe it's too premature for you to actually work. So there's a way of qualifying to say, you know what, you're ready. You're ready. I can really help you. How does that work? It
really depends on the case and what it is that they're interested in. So just to be clear, I don't turn away people who aren't ready. I instead will put them into a course that I have courses online. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, and it's an easier way for them to dip a toe into what we're talking about. And they could, if they had the bandwidth, they could actually implement most of what I teach them. There's my website now. And they could implement most of what I teach them on their own if they have the time and bandwidth. So I don't turn away most organizations. Let's put it that way. But whether or not they can work with me, sometimes it depends on their financial situation. Sometimes it depends on the size of their team. If it's the size of their team, well, then let's talk about how we can alleviate some of the pressures on the team to increase your bandwidth. If it's the fundraising side of things, well, then let's talk about. There's my show, which you're going to be on soon. If we could talk about if it's about fundraising and financial resources, well, then let's maybe start with showing you how to increase your fundraising online, tell better stories in your campaigns, and then with that, we can move on to the next stage in your digital strategy.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, it's because I know that sometimes the creating courses and things like that are kind of challenging. But you created some courses of which I went through, and I'm not even nonprofit, but I did that. The second those emails came, I got an alert and I did the course just because it was so interesting. And I'm not just blowing smoke. It was really interesting. And I'm not sure if you got the results, but I missed a couple of the questions on there. I just didn't pay good enough attention, I guess, or something. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I really took a lot out of that. And I hope that more people that have nonprofits, or if you know of people that have nonprofits, there is nothing to lose with this. Like it is fantastic. You're going to gain something out of it. What do you say about your course? What is going to help them? What are they going to come? Let me ask you this: who should take that course? Where are they at?
Anyone working in communications, in marketing, or in even development or IT. So
In nonprofits.
In nonprofit, ideally, yes. So as you said, the concepts are really universal. What I do, and one of my specialties, is interpreting some of those universal broader concepts specifically for nonprofit, because a lot is really targeted for the for-profit world. A lot of the consultants out there, a lot of the courses, a lot of the information in general is targeted in for-profit language for for-profit marketers. So one of my joys is to convert that into nonprofit, not just nonprofit speak, but into nonprofit goals and missions. Anyone who is connected to communications and specifically a website for nonprofits. So whatever side of it you're on, whether you're leading a program, whether you're the executive director of the organization, or you're on the marketing team at any level, you're going to learn a lot from that course in just simple implementable concepts that you could take away and discuss with your team, or just go and move a couple of things around on your website and see improved hero conversion rates.
I love that. What's a hero conversion rate?
Every page, every item that you ever put out should have what we call a call to action. And this comes from, it's in marketing everywhere, and I'm sure most people have heard it, but this comes really from Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, and how he breaks down that a hero gets asked to do something. And that's their call to action, to do something to change the world in a way, to respond to an injustice or something happening in the world. They get a call to action, and usually they'll say no. And then they'll be asked again, and again they'll say no. And then they'll be asked again. And then finally at some point they can't say no anymore, and they will step up and they will take the action. So at that point, once they've accepted the call to action, now they've become a hero because they've done something. And they don't instantly become the best hero ever, right? Now they're just starting on their journey to becoming a great hero. But as soon as they take any action, they're identifying themselves as someone who cares enough and is therefore a hero.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. What will one get out of this course? Can you give us one or two nuggets they might get after they've completed this course?
Yeah.
Not have known going into it? Yeah.
So I realized I didn't necessarily answer your question finally, which is what is the hero conversion rate? In marketing, we also call it the just plain conversion rate, or there's conversion rate optimization. It's basically more heroes, more people will resonate and take actions and join your email list, or subscribe to something that you're doing, opt in some way or other. So just to answer that. One thing is
interested in the organization.
Yes, self-identify. So our goal is to get people to self-identify, to resonate with and incorporate into their own identity your mission. And it's hopefully a joint mission. So it's something that they've cared about in one way or another without necessarily knowing what action they could take. So in my course, what I do is I break down the entire Hollywood structure from the point where you first hear of a movie, right? And that's going to be either a trailer or a poster or something like that. What is it that needs to go into that first engagement with you to tease you just enough to investigate further, to dig a little deeper, so if you just saw the poster, maybe you'll go and watch the trailer. If you just watched the trailer, maybe you'll go and see who's in it and see, when it's coming out. And then you might set a time on your calendar, or then you might go and purchase a ticket to the movie or subscribe to HBO Max or whatever it is that the thing might be on. So one thing that you could definitely, I'm happy to share with you that I definitely teach in the course is at each stage of the story, whether it's the teaser or once you get into the story itself, your goal is to get people to take the next step in the story, to not tune out, I had a directing teacher who said that first job of a director is to keep people from walking out. And he said, then they don't have to walk out physically. They could just be sitting there counting the lights. That's the same thing. They've mentally walked out. So your first job as a storyteller is to keep people from hitting that back button. You have 8 seconds these days to either attract someone's attention or lose them potentially forever. So number one, you want to capture people's attention in a way that's going to quickly resonate. Number two, you want to drive them down down the story path, on your homepage or whatever page they've landed on. Number three, you want to give them calls to action.
Your hero page.
Yes, your hero page. Exactly. Thank you. Number three, you want to give them small calls to action along the way. I see a lot of organizations, some wonderful organizations, that as soon as you land, they ask for a donation. Now, that's great if I already know you and trust you. But if I don't, you just asked to marry me on my first date with you, and I'm not going to trust anything you say. I'm going to get the heck out of there. So small incremental things are much more effective, especially early on. The third thing or is it the fourth? I lost count. But the next thing that I'll share with you right now and everybody watching is that the one way that I love that websites and really all of your digital presence is different from a movie is that it's intentionally interactive. It's those books that I used to love when I was a kid that were choose your own adventure.
Go to page 38. Go to page 7.
If you want, if you want Scarlet from G.I. Joe to go and rescue Duke, flip to page 54. If you don't, if you think she should keep pursuing Storm Shadow, I'm not recalling any of my childhood at all, flip to page 32.
And can I say something about that really quick?
Yeah.
I had an idea when I was young. I said, how cool would it be if we went into a movie theater and you had the little A, B buttons, and then when it came up a certain time, the audience could press B or A, and whichever one got the higher percentage, that's the way the direction of the movie would go. And I thought, you could go see the same movie a million times. It would be, or something.
Yeah.
I thought,
they tried that. They actually tried that technology. I think it was with Clue, where at the end you can vote for who actually did it. And it had alternate endings. I think it had like 4 endings. I don't remember right now. So yeah, they've tried that. And they've done that in interactive books as well. I have a very good friend who wrote a book where you could basically, and it was delivered on Kindle, where you could basically choose, what happens. And there were so many different variations of how it goes. So the same thing happens. No, I'm happy to talk about all of this. This is fun geek stuff. So the same thing can and should happen on your organization's social media, on your organization's websites and hero pages specifically, where not everybody wants to take the same path. Not everybody's interested in the same exact path. We're all different. So offer me as a potential avatar, that's what I call your potential hero, a path that might resonate with me, and I'll be much more likely to go that way.
Yeah. You have that interactivity. You get to choose. You know what? I'm kind of interactive. I want to see. Ooh, what is that? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that will help me out. Let me check that out. Yeah, I love that aspect. And that speaks volumes about user experience, the design, the interface, all of that kind of stuff, all of those big words that you know all about. You know it all. And that's what a lot of people have questions with too. Like, where do I put the buttons? How do I know that this is going to work? Where does my eyes go? And that's all the stuff that you can help people with.
Yeah.
But that's a tough time, right? They're focused on growing their nonprofit. They don't need to be worried about UI, UX. They need to be worried about it. But with your guidance, they can go off and grow their nonprofit.
Yeah, and it's not rocket science. There's continual science around this, and I love studying behavioral economics and other behavioral sciences, because they're constantly like doing these really smart little studies of not so little sometimes, of what it takes to get people to take the actions you want them to take, or the actions that they want to take even, and how to basically eliminate friction so that they get there. And that's exactly what storytelling done well with UX, which should be story-based, can really do. And it's so much fun for me.
Yeah. And I'll say something, you have to go get a course to check this out, but you have some examples of some of my favorite movies in there. And I think that may have helped me along as well, because the examples that you give and explain what to look at and what you're looking for and all that kind of stuff, it just resonated with me because I'm a fan. So if you like movies, you're going to love this Hollywood script. It's brilliant. So, Boris, how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Oh God, I am everywhere that I can be, considering my own bandwidth and resources. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You could visit my website at dotOrgStrategy.com. You can, on there's also courses you could just click on. You can get me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Right now, I'm actually doing a 30 days, 30 coffees challenge that my business coach challenged me to, where I'm just doing 20 minutes with anyone and everyone who wants to talk about nonprofits or making the world a better place. They can go and book a time to talk with me. You could find that on LinkedIn, or you could email me directly, boris@dotOrgStrategy.com. And I will be happy to respond and talk to you about it. If you're just a nonprofit, you could also just go to, no, I shouldn't say just a nonprofit. I didn't mean that. I just meant if you're a nonprofit who just wants to get a quick consultation with me on something, you could go to bookboris.com. That will actually translate. It's one of the advantages of having a name like Boris. I could get a lot of domains, but that will just forward to the page where you could book a time to talk with me for a free session. And then there is the course that Jamie's been talking about during this call, which I think will really help a lot of organizations. I'm very excited about it. It's super simple. It's 5 10-minute videos released out over the course of 5 days, called the Nonprofit Homepage to Hero Page Transformation. And you could find that by going to npheropage.com.
npheropage.com.
Yeah, NP for nonprofit, heropage.com.
Yep, love it. Going from homepage to hero page. I love that.
That's the goal.
That's fantastic. So one last thing before we wrap up, because we're past the half hour and I want to respect your time. Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap?
2 quick things. One is, to you, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And all the help and support you've been giving me for quite a while now has been tremendously powerful and has helped me a long, long way. And you're going to be on my show in just a couple of weeks, which is the Nonprofit Hero Factory, where basically I interview people like yourself, like people who work specifically in nonprofits, but really experts from all kinds of fields about how to activate more heroes for your cause. And I really appreciate you joining me. And I think it's going to be a great episode. We just released one today that is all about nonprofit innovation with a fantastic organization and a brilliant woman who works there. So I hope people will check that out.
So are you looking for guests for the show in the nonprofit sector?
I am actually. If anybody is interested, if you go to, what's the website for my podcast? It's all shortcuts basically that lead to my website. But if you go to npherofactory.com, it'll forward you to my website. And at the bottom there, you can fill out an interest form. And that way I'll know that you're interested and we'll set up a time to talk. But yes, I'm always interested in meeting new people and getting more great guests like you.
Well, I will tell you what, you have a slick process. Like it is, boy, you make your guests, you made me feel like you just had it all dialed in. I had nothing to worry about. I showed up and you just kind of guided me through the entire process. And I felt like that was so cool. It's very structured, very laid out, yet very light in conversation. So hats off to you, man. It's fabulous experience.
Well, it's been a lot of work, and partly thanks to a couple of assistants I happen to have from Bottleneck.
Well, yeah, that I tell you that I was like, wow, the assistant, he's your producer, right? So to speak.
Yeah, no, he is.
He kind of lays it out for me, and I was like, I have no questions to ask. Thank you. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good. So anybody out there that wants is involved in a nonprofit and wants to get the message out, you will be wholly impressed by not only the production value, but how welcome Boris makes you feel. And it's a great platform. So hats off to you, Boris. Good job.
Thanks, Jamie. And as a bald man, I do wear a lot of hats. So.
So oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Well, anything else?
No, I could stay here all day and just keep chatting with you. I don't know how many people are gonna, want to listen, but anything you want to know, I'm here to ask. If anybody has any questions, shoot them my way.
Yeah, and doggone it, I should have asked people in the very beginning if they had questions to ask. But if you do have questions, I know a lot of you are hesitant to ask questions or anything. I get it. But if you happen to come back and you're watching the replay and you have some questions specifically surrounding nonprofits for Boris, don't worry. Put them in the comments there, and I'll make sure to forward them off to Boris. Again, you can follow Boris on LinkedIn at dotOrgStrategy. Be a good place to connect with him there. And I cannot recommend it enough. If you're in a nonprofit and you don't know Boris, you gotta know who Boris is. So I highly, highly encourage you to reach out to Boris. Boris, do you have just a second and I can go ahead and wrap up?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. I've been talking to Boris Kievsky today. I wish I could do that Russian accent. That was freaking cool and funny as all get out. But he can definitely help stop the bottleneck in your nonprofit. Boris Kievsky is the chief storyteller and nerd for good at dotOrgStrategy. And I'll go ahead and put the graphic up really fast. Boris Kievsky is right there. Highly, highly, highly encourage reaching out to Boris. Just a good freaking human being, and he does really good stuff. He's very detailed, he's very specific, he's very caring, and he's very patient for you to make you kind of take your organization to that next level. Again, turning home pages into hero pages. That's his specialty. And utilizing his background with decades of theater experience, not seasons. I want to make that delineation right there. He knows his stuff, I promise you. So definitely reach out to him. If you want to go see more episodes like this one, you can go to Live with Bottleneck at bottleneck.online.tv/TV. If you want to learn more about what the show is about, you can go to bottleneck.online/BTV, and you'll see that in the outro coming up soon. Coming soon, I'm going to be talking with Adam Rosenlegs. He's the COO of RR&D Incorporated, and it's coming soon to your earbuds. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, its role in life and business. It's coming Thursday, July 1st. July, are we already in July? 2021, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for that one. I had a great conversation with Adam the other day. Another incredible human being. And he has some really cool ways on how to figure out emotional intelligence, connectivity, and relationships, and how you can grow and work in the right direction. It's some amazing scientific stuff that he's just got down really, really well. So in any case, thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, I was talking with Boris Kievsky. from dotOrgStrategy, mvherofactory.com. Go check him out. Highly encourage it. He's amazing. I'd go on and on about him, but we got to go. So have a great one. Remember, create your own ripple.